Like, I'm getting bored, man. It's like...
See, that's my favorite soup, other than I do like chili. I don't know if that's a soup or... I don't know. It's always one of those weird conversations of, like, is it a chili or is it a soup? But...
Welcome to this episode of the Voice Podcast, the podcast for students by students. Today, your host is Alyssa and myself, Sean, and we have a guest who is one of the most fun-loving person on the campus. He is always having a smile, having the positive energy. I introduce to you students, ladies and gentlemen, Jadon Hook.
Thank you very much, Sean. Thank you for having me on here.
You're most welcome. And can you introduce you to us? So what is your role at St.LawrenceCollege? And what do you do every day in that role, please?
Yeah, of course. So like they said, my name is Jadon Hook, and I'm the Sustainability Officer here at St. Lawrence College. I'm also a faculty advisor for the Enactus St. Lawrence College team. And basically what my role is to engage students with sustainability and promote sustainable actions here on the campus. So both in kind of operations, so making sure our campus is recycling properly, but also doing fun community initiatives.
And so is it more of it's something which is of a club here at SLC, or is it both a full-time role which you have?
Yeah, so Footprint's really a really nice mix of being a club of the Student Association, but also being part of the sustainability operations here at the campus. So it's really a good place for students to have direct kind of say and kind of, we'll say, engagement on how the campus is running sustainably.
And how much would you say, like, how long has this club been at St. Lawrence College, please?
Yeah, from my knowledge, the club's been around since around 2012, 2013-ish. That's what my impression is. That's from a little bit before my time, but yeah, that's what I've been told.
And how long have you been here, like sustainability officer for SLC Footprint?
I've actually been just the sustainability officer for the last. I started late August, so I'm fairly new into the role. But in 2018, I was actually the sustainability marketing assistant when I was a student studying here at St. Lawrence College. So I've been around Footprint for a couple of years now, and I've done a lot of community projects with them. So the role is new, but the work is not new.
All right, so you know pretty much what comes around at the club, and I think Alyssa has some marvelous questions for you coming up. So Alyssa, what would you love to ask Jadon?
Okay, let's start with, what is the main goal of the Footprint Club?
Yeah, so the main goal of the Footprint Club is to really make students the focal point of our sustainability plan. So really getting students engaged with both projects, but also making the physical changes here at the campus. A lot of the things that I've seen be implemented over the last few years have been really student ideas moving through the kind of, chain of getting things done. And so that's really our goal with Footprint, is to really give students that platform to make their campus more sustainable. So, most students want to do that. So it's kind of just giving them that opportunity and platform.
That's good. Can you give a couple of examples what students' ideas were implemented in campus?
Yeah, of course. So a few of those ideas really come around with, projects like our winter coat drive was created by a student that started way before me. Our Halloween harvest programming, which we do in partnership with Enactus St. Lawrence College. Our e-waste programming was started from a bunch of students and the old sustainability manager. So that's kind of a really good project of looking at, what can we do from an internal standpoint? And then can we also add an element to the community to it? So those are some really good examples of some community-driven sustainability initiatives.
And can you elaborate more about Halloween Harvest? I think Halloween is approaching much, and I think students would love to know what Halloween Harvest is all about. Yeah.
Halloween Harvest really is a good way of kind of encompassing sustainability with community and also kind of social causes. So Halloween Harvest, in an essence, is a community food drive. So it's in partnership with the CICE student program, Partners in Mission Food Banks, and plenty of other partners that I'm going to miss here. But mostly it's Enactus and Footprint students on St. Lawrence College campus. Generally, it's Kingston, but there is going to be an element in Brockville and Cornwall campuses as well, where we are basically collecting food bank items. So in the past, it's been a lot of non-perishables, but it's also going to be hygiene products. So, really understanding, and that's students looking at, oh, is there another opportunity to create impact? Oh, well, food banks really need, shampoo, toothpaste, these basic hygiene products. A lot of people, toothpaste can get pretty pricey up there. So, it's really looking at that, and then working around the college and also the community, and just simply collecting those things, getting people, aware of it. So there's a lot of marketing and communication challenges with that as well. Most of it is just setting up in a cafeteria where there's a lot of foot traffic. And we usually get dressed up, do some Halloween decorations, have some candy available. It's really a kind of a...
I got on this one. Should be good.
So it's a really good way for students to get engaged. It happens every single day, so it gives, some students can only engage as much as their school schedules or their work schedules are able. But Halloween Harvest is a really cool project because, happening every single day. Usually you have one day available where you can kind of get involved. So it's a really good project for, usually we get about 30 students engaged in that project to kind of help and jump in for that volunteering.
And how many students and how many days, you say, like it runs on various days, so how many days does this usually run?
Yeah, so this year we're going to start on October 11th, so the day after Thanksgiving, and we're going to go all the way until the 29th, I believe, which is the Friday. And then on Halloween, we're actually going to go out in the community. We're going to be dressed up, and we're going to, go basically door to door, kind of basically doing trick or treat, but with food bank donation items.
And any costume you have planned for this Halloween?
I usually keep myself pretty open. In the past, I've been, we do have a soup can costume. So I at times have been known to wear that soup can costume. I'm sure if you check out the Instagram pages of Nactus and Footprint, you'll probably see a couple videos or pictures of me in that costume. I don't really have a costume idea yet, but I'm definitely open to suggestions.
What could be a broccoli?
I could be broccoli, yeah. Could be a tree. Could be something
I love
right now.
broccolis. I would love to dress as a broccoli. No way. And so what's next coming up, Alisa? What would you love to?
Do you have a favorite initiative that you could implement?
Oh, that's a good question. I've always been quite fond of the electronic waste initiative. Maybe that's just top of mind. We actually did a collection and pickup this past Thursday. So maybe it's just really top of mind, and I got to see the students really get engaged. But that's a project that, it seems kind of really simple. It's just, collecting, if it's a community drive, it's really reaching out to the community to see, hey, do you have old TVs, or what's in your basement, or, do you have old phones? You got like 5 phones at home that you don't know where to, dispose of them. So it's really a good, fun activity to do, collecting all of those things, but even internally. So, when we have, upgrades to different computers, or let's say someone's computer doesn't work anymore, or, a mic doesn't work, for example, it's really nice to know that across our 3 campuses, we have an option that, it's going to be refurbished, repurposed for, within our own kind of ecosystem. And it's always a project that, we usually get a lot of volunteers for. So you can really see kind of, almost a good teamwork train of, passing one item off to the other. So really fun project. It can be a little, your back gets sore a little bit, especially with the big old TVs with the, the 3 feet of back on them.
Yeah, wow.
A lot of teamwork, a lot of health and safety stuff that you need to do, but it's a really fun project. Halloween Harvest is always one that's up there. And then same with the Winter Coat Drive. So it's really, I really tend to really get into the, high volunteer, high engagement kind of projects. Those are kind of my favorite because I see people coming together to, work on a community issue. So, I'd say those ones would be my favorite.
That sounds cool.
It really is like, what's a winter coat actually? Like winter's coming also. So what is it all about?
Yeah. So
how is it different from the others?
Yeah. So Winter Coat Drive really is kind of, kind of taking the model of Halloween Harvest and just applying it to kind of winter coats, but also accessories and kind of boots and stuff like that. So in the past, there's always been different organizations that we've worked with for the winter coat drive, but even a few years ago, I believe in 2019, there was an idea to work with the international office for when students come in January, and it's very cold here in January. So if you're coming here, you might not have a winter coat for those first week or 2 weeks. So it's really, we donate some coats and different things there just to, until they find a coat that they really like or stuff like that. So really a winter coat drive is just, collecting different scarves, boots, gloves, mitts, coats especially, and then we donate them to different areas that need them.
That's actually very noble, because I cannot imagine winter without having the proper dress, to have the proper clothes that fit. I myself going to experience my first winter here, so it's going to be very much of a challenge. But I guess I'm ready.
You're ready?
Oh, I think so. Not 100%. I think
it's cold. It's cold.
Yeah,
it's cold. But yeah, I'm sure you'll be able to handle it.
It's all right. And one thing, last week, there was those posts on Instagram about collecting computers and stuff like that. So if I'm a student, I'm basically where do I dispose of them actually? Tomorrow I have a huge PC, a huge CPU, also my phone. I have 3 phones in my drawers. So where do I dispose of them at SLC?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So if you want to dispose of any of those electronics, we actually have a giant bin right in our IT, and it's across all 3 campuses. So in IT, you'll see this kind of gray bin. It'll be, I've got to replace some of the marketing stuff on there. It's kind of, gone off, but there's nice clear signage of what we accept for electronic waste. Basically anything not kitchen appliance. Due to the heating element, so no microwaves or anything else like that. I am looking at how we can properly do that, specifically with kind of residents. But for now, we only collect, computer. Basically, think what's in a computer office.
Sure. And I have another question, which is all of those 3 projects, how would you say they've been effective and progressing since the past years, especially during the pandemic? How do you see it? How effective was it?
Yeah. So you're asking, were we able to do those projects in the pandemic? Yeah. So the electronic waste project, because there's both the community e-waste drive, but there's also kind of the internal collection. For the internal, because no one was here on campus, we didn't have a ton of, there was no electronic waste there. We did do our first kind of getting back into it, electronic waste community drive back in, I want to say March, but it might have been April of this year. And that way we had about, I think the number was about 200 cars come through with electronics. And we filled a whole shipping container full of, old TVs, stuff like that. And a lot of our feedback was that they were really waiting for this because it's been a couple of years since we've done a community e-waste drive. So there was a lot of, as they would say, a backload of things in the basement that they were waiting to properly dispose of. Halloween Harvest, we still did last year. So in October 2021, we still were able to do kind of a project over that month. Due to there not being as many people on campus, it wasn't as successful as normal years, but I believe we collected 700 food items. And we raised about $500 in cash that was kind of distributed 5 different primary spots. The SA Food Bank being one of them.
That's amazing. Just having even during the midst of the pandemic, students of SLC being actively contributing. And I think for this year, by the end of this year, we're going to have much, much more in terms of effectiveness of those campaigns.
We have waste bins all around the campus with landfill and glass and plastic. Where are they going? So all this collected waste, do you send it to any organization? What do you do with them?
Yeah, our organizations that we work with, it's called Enviro 360, and so those are kind of waste management partners. They kind of are all over the place. They deal with a lot of colleges and universities across Canada. I do want to touch on one thing of like we also do find we finally have implemented it's called front of house composting. So on a lot of those, especially in the food high food traffic areas, so the cafeteria mostly, there's an option for compost that we're just implementing. This is kind of our first term that we're bringing it in, so we're really excited to see how that diverts waste from the landfill and into compost.
In the last couple of years, I think we've all heard the phrase like eco-friendly lifestyle a lot.
Mm-hmm.
What does it mean, well, for you particularly?
Yeah, so for me particularly, it's really looking at, I like looking at systems and behavior. So, not just telling people, hey, you need to be more eco-friendly, but making it easy and accessible for people and also affordable. That's a big part. Sustainability is not just the green element, it's also the social element and also the affordability. No one can do that option if it's way too expensive. So you really need to make that easy for them. So how I kind of look at eco-friendly lifestyle is really looking at the small things in your life that you can change. So, if you're a coffee drinker and like myself, so, that's using our reusable mug program. So how we try to make that more affordable is you save 10 cents off every coffee. As someone who's probably about 3 coffees a day, 30 cents a day for over a whole semester, like that adds up to a decent amount of money that I look almost as that's free money almost. Because I'm going to drink coffee anyways. I have a reusable mug already. You usually get them gifted out a lot of the times, especially myself. So that's one way to really look at that. But it's also looking at your consumption habits. If you need to go clothes shopping, it's, do you need to go to this, fast fashion outlet, or can you maybe go to a thrift store? So it's really looking at options and evaluating those options. Doesn't mean you're a bad person if you choose this outlet. Sometimes it's more affordable and it's easier on your time. That's another thing, is try not to feel awful about it. But really just evaluate your options and make, the pros and cons of each. If you're going downtown, especially as students, do you need to drive there or can you take the bus, even if you're not an avid bus goer? So it's really just looking and evaluating options and, is one that's the more sustainable option the better and more easily accessible, or do you just want to do it for that time? So it's really just looking at your options, I think, is a good way to become more eco-friendly. Look at everything that you're consuming and seeing if there's a better option for that.
I've heard from a couple of people, I guess I can say from many people, they have this 3 points of view. So the first one is that to be more sustainable, it's either more expensive, way more expensive sometimes, or it means losing in comfort. So I need to lose my comfort basically to be more sustainable. Then the second thought is that I know that people won't do that. And then the third thought is that, well, if I know that most of people won't do that, then why would I do that? What to say? What can I say for those people? I don't know how to explain it to them.
Yeah, that's really the big question there for behavior. So, it's really like, if you want to kind of provide that as an advice, just say, one person doing it, but 10 people not doing it almost discredits that one person doing it, in the same sense of, we are a collective. We all live in the same society. We live in the same system. So think of it as this, students here on campus. So if we have, we'll say 100 students that are recycling perfectly, but the rest of the students are not recycling at all, not even imperfectly. That makes those 100 students almost not, like, it still matters, it's still there, but I would rather, kind of an old saying is, we don't need, 7 billion people recycling and being eco-friendly perfectly. We need that many people doing it imperfectly. Every little effort and trying your best and getting to that point is really kind of where we can get going, and then you can kind of build off of that. Really, and for the kind of, it's more expensive or more, kind of less comfort, I would say, avoid the fads. There's a lot of fads out there. But a lot of sustainability can be boiled down to a lot of, looking at things that I'd say differently. Like the bus program. So, that's more affordable than driving your car right now because it's part of your tuition. It's already been paid for. It's already kind of there. So that's an option of getting around, especially, I'm not a car driver, but I know gas prices are pretty high, and I know insurance can be really high for a lot of students out there. So, insurance they have to pay anyways, but I know gas is really expensive. So that's a way of, not every sustainability option is pricier, but definitely avoid some of the fads that just use, marketing keywords to try and get you to buy this really green product, but it may be not the best product or even the most convenient product.
And so speaking of fad, because green, eco-friendly is very much now a selling point for anyone who wants to go into business now, needs to have an environmental assessment plan, how they're going to contribute to the planet being more eco-friendly and sustainable. And do you think how as a student can I differentiate, because I don't know much about it, how can I differentiate between a fad product or a really eco-friendly product and sustainable one?
That's a great question. So I think really looking at this is where critical thinking really builds into it. Yeah. So there's going to be a lot of products out there that say, oh, it's, eco-friendly, or, this is made from recycled materials. Some of that is going to be correct. I know a lot of companies do that authentically. But it does come down to a little bit of research and kind of looking at the product yourself and seeing, is that, where is it located on the packaging? If it's located on the back where the nutrition facts is, generally that's going to be a little bit more, because that's where certifications would go. And really, look at the certifications, and do your research on which certifications are, we'll say, the most genuine or authentic to being, the most sustainable or eco-friendly. I would definitely look at certifications and seeing if they're just saying it, or if they have, hey, this is approved and certified by this organization. Because that means there's almost a third party saying, yes, this is a sustainable product, and it's not just the people selling it trying to use it as a keyword kind of thing. So that's one way. Sorry, my voice there. That's one way to really identify different kind of products.
And also, speaking about student lifestyle being eco-friendly, students are sometimes, have a very tight budget. So how in my everyday, day-to-day basis, without affecting a huge chunk of my budget, can I contribute to a more sustainable living? Apart from bus driving, and also is there any other ways of thrift shopping?
Yeah, thrift shopping is a great way. Taking the bus is another great way. It also kind of can save you money. If you don't pay utilities, even if you don't pay utilities, you should still watch your energy usage. Do you need to have a 45-minute shower, or can that be a 30-minute shower? How are you doing the dishes? Are you just leaving the water running on for the entire time? Or are you filling up the sink first and then doing it that way? How many times are you using a dishwasher? Laundry, and also if you do pay for utilities and kind of laundry, and it's not and it's an in-house unit, look at specific times that are lower cost energy times on in the city. So generally, I think in Kingston, I believe, please verify this for yourselves. But I believe after 7 p.m., if you have an in-house laundry unit and you pay for energy, that's the most optimal time to do your kind of laundry from a cost savings benefit. So really looking at those. I believe it's 7 p.m.
Okay, I'll do that.
But again, please verify that. I don't want to tell everyone that, but I believe that's from living here most of my life. I think that's the time element. But yeah, even if you are an inclusive space, always looking at how can you sit in your room without lights on, basically, and if there's enough natural light, or just looking at small little ways to make a contribution there. Did I answer your question, or did I kind of go around it there?
It's like also like because sustainability comes with a price. It's more like some students live on a tight budget of $800, $1,000. Sometimes even the food is like like eating organically, for example, fresh is pretty difficult. Is there a way without trying to upscale the budget in that I can consume something healthy without breaking the bank mostly?
Yeah. So food is a hard one. That's a tricky one, because everyone's diets are different, and where you're buying it is also different. So I don't have a ton of suggestions when it comes to how do you buy things more affordably.
Food is a big wastage.
It is a big waste. I would say maybe to avoid food waste and to also avoid money waste, they usually go hand in hand. Really look at portions and what you're buying. So I do this a lot with, I think the best example is bananas. So I love bananas, but I'm the only one in my house that eats them.
Yeah.
So when I go to buy them, we usually go grocery shopping every kind of week and a half, 2 weeks. I look to buy enough for what I would eat in that time frame. Am I going to have a banana every single day, though? Probably not. I'll get sick of bananas, even though they're my favorite fruit. So I'll buy like 4 or 5, and then not buy the giant bushels of, we'll say 10, because I don't need 10 bananas. That's just not what I'm able to eat. So that could be a way of looking at, especially fruit and vegetables. Sometimes you can get, and I do this all the time. I'll see, mushrooms, for example, be like, hey, this is, if you buy 2 packs, it's only $4 or whatever. And I'm like, oh, that's a deal. But a lot of the times I'm not going to finish both buckets of mushrooms by the time they go bad. So that's food waste and money waste. Even if it's only $1, when I do that every single time, though, that's going to, again, add up. And when you are a student, I was a student for 5 years. I kind of have and fairly recently, I do know it does add up in the long run. Other food, kind of food ways of, avoiding, well, I don't. Do you have any tips?
I think I have this thing recently, this idea which sparked in my mind when we were preparing for that subject, was how about establishing a food trade system? Like if I bought something and I'm not essentially going to use it, then I realize, oh, I don't like that. I wanted to try this, but how if there's someone else who would love to try it and they have something they don't want to eat, so we can trade it at the end of the day. So it's like a bit of a barter system, bring it back that way. So that's
I do love a good barter system, and I think maybe that's something that could be done, especially at residence, maybe.
Yeah.
Where it's very close proximity with each other, but even in very student centered communities, I think there could be something set up there. Again, how that could look, I don't know. That could be
something to test out.
It could almost be like a little market every Sunday at residence or something like that. And it's like, hey, I got these strawberries. They're not bad, but I'm not going to eat them or something like that. That could be a good way. I do want to also end off by saying, if you're looking to help, save some money and, especially if you're in, especially if you're struggling financially, but even if you're not, make use of food banks. Don't view them as just like kind of a last resort. They can be something. The SA has a great food bank and pantry. So please make use of that, especially if you're struggling financially. That's one thing I just want to highlight is make use of those resources that are already there and don't look down upon them almost. They're there for people, and are donated by other people. So it's, kind of like that barter system idea, but yeah, I do love the barter system idea. I might have to look into that.
Yeah, it's something
a food swap almost, yeah.
Food swap, it's more of a friend, because yesterday I have a friend who lives nearby, and she gave me, like, I don't eat tilapia. So basically what I do is I order from Walmart because I don't have time. So I ordered salmon, but they gave me like 2 bags of tilapia, which I don't like eating tilapias because they are like, grown into harvesting and closed. But my friend loves them. And she actually went to the Sunday market and she had a lot of radish. So basically I told her, but I'm going to give you this deal. And she gave me like those radish. And I was like, oh, but you didn't need to. But then this idea came into my mind, we're just friends, we don't care about the cost of the money, basically. I don't care if the radish are cheaper or my tilapias are more expensive. It's more of this exchange of you're doing something sustainable, but you're also creating a relationship with someone. You're building a bond, you're having a friendly conversation. So I think like combining that human relation, social aspect, along with sustainability, saving food, saving money, is basically four bullets into one, four targets into one shot. So it's kind of a good way. Just some people might be a bit unfair into it, they might abuse of it. So just in the future to implement that, I think having a system of regulation, which would, hey, this equates a bit to this, the market value is that. So maybe something more regulated, but in between friends, what you can do is just, hey, I'm not eating this, so you can have this. It will save you one meal. One meal can be $5 to $6 cooking. So adding up, you do this like 3-4 times per month. $20. It's a ticket of cinema if you want to watch movies. So yeah. So it's all those little things can save up that budget also, and it's sustainable.
Exactly.
That's mostly.
I know I did that actually this past Friday, where me and my partner, we ordered food, and we live with another roommate, and I know I couldn't finish my meal, so I offered it to my roommate as like, hey, do you want to kind of finish this for me, or because I knew I wasn't going to be able to eat it, and it wasn't the kind of food that's really good for leftovers. That's another good way of eating sustainably is looking at what could be really good for leftovers. And I know with it kind of being a little bit colder now, fall season, winter, make use of soups. I know those are a really good way of soup heats up really well in a microwave or anything like that. So I'm a big soup guy. I love soup. So
I'm more like if I do soup, it will be unhealthy. I love cream, like, rich cream, like cauliflower cream or mushroom creamy soups. Oh my God, like onion soup, onion garlic. Oh my God. Like it's all very rich, but it's like high in calories. I'm like, this is not a soup. This is just like basically cream, cheese, and everything. This soup become very savory.
You gotta mix it up a little bit here and there. You gotta mix it up. But yeah.
I'm more of a steamer guy. Like I steam my veggies mostly.
Yeah, that's a great way. I love that.
Yeah, I love that. So that's mostly,
like you said, broccoli at the beginning. Broccoli is one of my favorite vegetables, so I love steamed broccoli.
It's just filling, like it's when you eat it, it's just filling, and also the taste is not bad. It's like it has a quite good taste. You just squeeze some lemon on it with some rice vinegar. I guess you're pretty good as well. And you have a good meal, I guess, with that. Just to that dash of acidity. How about you, Alisa? Any particular vegetable you're a fan of?
I love broccoli.
Broccoli as well?
Hey, this is Team Broccoli.
And I also love cream of mushroom soup.
Oh, wow. Cream of mushroom.
It is
finally someone who appreciates my taste of soup. Like, oh, no, but soup. I have a friend, she loves lentil soup, I say. I like lentils. It's cheap. It's protein. It's pretty good meal to have. But I'm like, do I need to eat this all like 30 spoons of that? Like I'm getting bored, man. It's like
that's my favorite soup. Other than I do like chili. I don't know if that's a soup or I don't know. It's always one of those weird conversations of like, is it a chili or is it a soup? But I'd say it's more of a chili. But I don't know. It's an interesting look at.
It's a spicy soup. And it's more rich also, chili, like a bit more oil into it.
Could almost be classified as a stew.
Stew, I would put it as a stew. Yeah. Definitely more into soup. It's soup. Yeah. I'm trying to combine both words, but anyway, this is getting weird again on camera. So basically, I have one question though. Like, how did that passion for, hey, I'm going to live a sustainable lifestyle, when did that bell ring to you? Hey, I need to change my lifestyle.
Honestly, it's was never one change or one thing. It's just kind of when I was, I probably want to say 10, 11, 12. I've just always known about, at the time it was more known as global warming, but kind of climate change. And so I've always wanted to do things around that. That's what I use that kind of passion for working on climate doing climate action projects, coming to school even. That's what helped guide me, my program of what I chose and kind of where I want to take my kind of career and who I want to work with, basically. So I wouldn't say it was one thing. I'd say it was, I'd say if anything, I probably watched, a couple documentaries when I was younger, and it just brought that issue up. But it was also something that was taught both, my family, but also, in school and stuff. It was something that was, and the way I looked at it was like, why is nothing being done on this? Like, this seems like a pretty big problem for the whole world, for every people or every person. So I was always like, why isn't there being solutions? And I remember even when I was younger, I'd always do, I kind of wanted to be an inventor when I was younger. So I would always come up with different solutions and like little blueprints, and I used to send to my to one of my uncles who's an engineer, and was like, he'd be like, yeah, this can totally work, and it was like, it was not working at all. But it's just small little things to work through of, and I guess I've kind of kept that same perspective of, there's climate change, but there's a lot of elements that go into climate change. If you just say, hey, we're going to solve climate change, that's a huge task. There's a lot there. But if you break it down into, there's waste over here. Well, there's a lot that goes into waste. Yeah. There's electronic waste, there's plastic waste, there's paper waste. There's so many different elements of waste. And then you go over, there's energy. Well, there's a lot of different kinds of energy, right? Mm-hmm. There's residential energy. There's, institutional, or I think commercial energy is the proper way. And then there's so many different topics that go into climate change. And then behavior is kind of an element of it all, right? So I've been really approaching everything from, how can we make the behavior easier or almost the default option to being more sustainable. So I'd say it's kind of just been something I've always kind of been passionate about since I've remembered. Kind of wanting to be an inventor, and at one point I wanted to be an architect too, so I could build really kind of green buildings. Really good building practices, recycled materials, really good insulation, stuff like that. Boring stuff, but things that add up, especially really good insulation is really good for the energy bills. So it's a good money saving option as well.
And so speaking of inventions, now I'm curious, what was the craziest invention you sent to your uncle? Like, hey, this is going to save the planet, uncle. You need to design this.
Well, it was actually, one of the things I was looking at was, and I got this idea from a movie I watched or a documentary or something. And now keep in mind, I was like 10 or 11, so no judgment. And it was actually a way of saving water in a household, was almost, using every time you had a shower or a bath, that water would be filtered into another like tank, either right beside it or under, and then it'd be clean. And that's what you would use all the time for your life. Bath and showers, that it'd just be filtered every time you used it. It doesn't actually work in like a feasibility standpoint, but I think the idea of looking at small little things like that was good, and it at least started the conversation for me.
That's pretty good. Like, since a young age, you have this ability to like, maybe, hey, like I always say, like Mozart, like the composer, back in the days, they would write 800 composition of music, but only one would be known, like 1 or 2 or 5 maximum. So I always say, like, craft your craft. There's maybe one invention that will probably do the thing. And
if I may kind of jump the gun a little bit. So one of the, I think, best opportunities of Footprint and Enactus for a student is a place to try and fail at these things. So speaking of inventions, I kind of look at inventions as projects as well. So when I was a student here, I probably created, we'll say 8 or 9 projects. Take a guess on how many of those actually did well or are still projects to this day. And I've tried everything. One year I tried doing plastic water bottle greenhouses. I've tried doing, this one I wanted to work, and it still can work, I think. It's just a very hard problem logistically, is is coffee ground soap. So that's an idea of like turning spent coffee grounds into turning it into a soap or something like that. So that's another kind of thing, but whole bunch of different ideas and projects that just didn't work, but it's a great place to, I guess, fail. And you can learn why didn't that project work out very well. Yeah. So that's a kind of a good way of, inventions, but projects as well. A good place for students to kind of jump into things.
You mentioned that you've watched a couple of documentaries that help you to actually see the problem of all environmental problems. Can you recommend any documentaries or maybe books, anything like that?
Yeah, I definitely, there's a lot of documentaries out there. I know, BBC Earth does a whole bunch with, I think it's David Attenborough. Then there's a lot of National Geographic. So they have really high-end kind of documentaries with a different bunch of topics. For books, I really looked at books around sustainability, but also more of the Indigenous ways of learning and knowing and living. So a good one for that. There's a couple of resources here at the Innovation Hub. There's a couple good books on Indigenous, and then also please check out the Indigenous Center down at the Student Life and Innovation Center. But there's a book that I read last year, actually. It's called Braided Sweetgrass, and it's kind of a good look at kind of combining those two topics together. And really, they're all one topic. How sustainability is really should be looked at as more of a holistic approach. It's kind of something we live on this planet. It's communities that we live in. So why we should strive to make those as sustainable as possible, for us, but also for future people as well. So yeah, those are some good resources I think to check out. Is there any good documentaries that you guys have watched maybe recently?
I didn't watch any documentaries. I've read a book last year, I think, How to Avoid Climate Change. Mm-hmm. It was a pretty good book. Yeah.
I've also read that. Yeah, it was a really good one as well, yeah.
Well, let's imagine I'm a student. Mm-hmm. I've never heard about any environmental problems. I don't know what does it mean to be sustainable, how to live sustainable. Now I'm listening to this podcast and I'm getting interested. How do I start to do my research? How to basically get this basic idea of sustainability?
Yeah, so great question. So if you're a student here at St. Lawrence College, a great way for you to get engaged directly with sustainability initiatives is joining the Footprint Club. So you can do that directly from the SA Club's website. You can also do that by just simply emailing me, which I'm sure my email will be available at the end of this, but it's jhook@sl.un.ca. Secondary way of understanding what's available here at the campus. So, if you go to the St. Lawrence College website, you can also identify, just search up sustainability and you can get to learn all of the initiatives here on campus. So you can get to look at we call them campus green maps, and basically we have one of each of our 3 campuses where you can see, hey, there's the reusable mug program. Oh, there's solar panels over here. Oh, did you know this about our buildings? Or, really it's a good way to understand what kind of campus you're living on and what's already made available. So it's a little bit of those are hybrid kind of thing where it's, hey, here's some information, but here's how, you can be, sustainable as a student. Did you know we have a secured bike storage? Or yeah, exactly. So there's the bike racks in the front, but there's also a secured bike storage in the back where,
Is it near the gym? The gymnasium?
Yeah, it's right near the gym, and it's kind of right directly outside of the Indigenous Center as well.
Okay.
Near it is the Indigenous Garden and also kind of a sitting area. So highly recommend that, especially in the summer. It's a really good place to, lots of pollinators, lots of butterflies, a really good place. But anyways, another way to kind of get engaged or stay aware of things on campus is following Footprint on Instagram. That's where we do a lot of our communications. So, different projects, and, you don't need to be in Footprint to participate in projects. So if you see something that's, hey, that's coming up next week, you can just come and say, hey, I want to volunteer for this. So that's, a really good way for you to get engaged is you don't need to make that commitment.
Sure.
But you can just do one-off projects if you want. that's kind of my approach to kind of helping our student leaders run our club is kind of, it's not all at once. You can, as much time as you're able to basically commit to the team. If you're only available to do projects and you don't want to do the meetings or any of the team socials or anything like that, you can just join for the projects, or vice versa. If you want to just kind of dip your toes and get familiar with the community of sustainability here at the campus, you can slowly dive into that and then eventually take on a bigger role if you want. So really kind of those are some really good ways to understand, be aware, and kind of get engaged with sustainability and footprint at St. Lawrence College.
And so it's SLC Footprint, right, on Instagram?
Correct, yeah.
Yeah, SLC Footprint down there.
Do you have any plans for this school year? Any initiatives you would like to implement this school year?
Yeah, so this is the question that really excites me.
Yeah.
So actually coming up, October is our big sustainability month. So we're doing a bunch of collaborations with, other departments here in the college, but also we're going to be doing with several Queen sustainability teams, as well as Sustainable Kingston, which is, kind of Kingston's kind of sustainability branch. So we're going to be doing a ton of projects, workshops, giveaways, whole bunch of different things like that. So Halloween Harvest is going on in October. The Winter Coat Drive is going to be happening the last week of October, kind of floating into November. There's going to be a Pollinator House Bee Hotel workshop. There's going to be a slow cooker, local food kind of workshop and giveaway. There's going to be several initiatives and projects going out with Queen's University, so they're going to be doing a lot of different initiatives as well that SLC students are invited and welcome to join.
Okay. And when is that particular event?
So it's going to be all month long. So it's really a whole collaboration. There's probably 7 or 8 different organizations that we're all kind of partnering together. Later this week there'll be actually a schedule, kind of a calendar going out of all the different activities and events that students can directly get engaged with, registration links, stuff like that. We're also doing, in partnership with the Innovation Hub Spark, a sustainability sprint. So that's going to be a week-long kind of, how's the best way to describe a sprint? So basically it's going to be kind of a social media campaign, but there's also going to be a physical element where basically we're going to be challenging you with daily prompts every single day for 1 week. Things like, hey, get coffee with a reusable mug, save 10 cents, show us the price that you saw. Different prompts every single day. They're still to be determined. We're still working on kind of the back end, but that's a way of, learning more about the initiatives, but also kind of engaging. And there's going to be lots of giveaways for that. Bamboo cutlery, Rocketbook kind of reusable notebooks, some other things that I have in plan that are kind of more sustainability driven, maybe some, really nice, unique, pretty, reusable mugs. A whole bunch of different things like that. So Sustainability Month's going to be a big one. November, we're planning on doing a community electronic waste drive. So we're going to do that. Right now, where it's just Kingston, but we might look at Cornwall and Brockville for November as well. And that's a good way for students to get kind of a volunteer. It's going to be on a Saturday, so I don't know how much. I don't like asking students for their Saturday, but it is a really good day of getting out there, getting involved in the community, and just a really fun day. Hopefully it doesn't rain. We do seem to get it's almost like a little curse. We've done about 4 community e-waste drives, and every single time it's always like a monsoon or something crazy that happens. So hopefully, this next one, it's going to be a little cold because it's November, but hopefully it's just like a normal cold day. That would be the best. Nothing blowing away, nothing, not just crazy rain. So hopefully we get lucky this year. That's what I'm hoping.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited about all of this, actually.
Yeah. And there's going to be lots of footprint meetings and kind of social events and ways for students kind of propose different things that they want to work on as well. Thinking about doing in October as well, kind of a pitch competition of different sustainability ideas and projects that we want to kind of jump into. And Actus will support that, as well as Footprint. So lots of things to get engaged with.
Yeah, there's a lot of new projects, I think, which is going already like next month, which is in a few days.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
in October and November as well. And anything planned for next year, 2023? What
Yeah.
resolution?
Yeah.
Already speaking in advance.
Yeah,
Taking
so
up.
part of my job is
Yeah.
looking at the future and what
Yeah.
we're gonna do. So for March, we already do have that's kind of our annual community e-waste drive is in March. It's only this year we're moving it to also November. So that's going to be planned. There's a few things like I don't know how much I want to jump into that, but yeah, there's definitely plans for energy saving projects. There's going to be some waste saving projects. So we're really going to use and observe some of the data from this semester to make kind of informed decisions on what projects we're going to do for next semester. So it's really understanding kind of the data of seeing all these students on campus. That's something that we haven't had in 3 years or so. So really, we want to understand what the behaviors are now, so we can make those changes for kind of next year. So really, next year is really looking at the waste, at the data. How are we going to make those changes here? So it's almost the students and the data themselves that is going to drive the projects for next year.
And, from my side, like I have more hypothetical question.
Yeah.
So imagine like tomorrow, like you can implement any project you want at SLC, sustainable one or ecological, or even like in general. What would you implement tomorrow? You have no restriction. You can do whatever you want. What would you do?
Oof. Ideally, it'd just be putting in, honestly, it'd be putting in more kind of energy, renewable energy sources here on the campus. So that would be my goal, like, more solar panels, maybe looking at more geothermal sources, maybe looking at, wind turbines a little, we have a lot of campus space, but I don't think we have enough for a wind turbine, but it'd be cool to look at, maybe there other solutions for wind. That would be my goal, is really making the college and campus, which is already energy efficient, even more, zero waste. I'm also a big proponent of making our campus zero waste. So I really want to work on projects that work with small little, when looking at waste, yeah, you want to look at the totality, but also, where is it coming from, direct sources. So that's where sorting and all the back end work does a lot of, it does us a lot of good of, we can identify this place as a really big waste potential. Over here, there's limited waste, but not just ignoring those. Like, why is it limited? Can we make it even more limited than it was? So look at our, our hair salon, Dynamic Designs, have a partnership with Green Circle Salons, where basically the salon is pretty much zero waste. I think the number is 95%. But basically zero waste. So, you wouldn't see that if you're just looking at the total waste numbers, but seeing, individual pockets of the college, I think, is a really good way of looking at it. So I'd love to implement more projects like that, making one department, one program, more eco-friendly, more kind of, net zero almost.
And I have another one. So imagine like tomorrow, like this is pushing it a bit more further. Like tomorrow, you're like, oh, I get to implement any project. I'm like at UNESCO. I'm like United Nations. I want this for the world. Like, what would you do? Jadon is the CEO of the world. So, what would you implement?
Well, I'd really look at, one of the biggest opportunities for climate action is in transportation. So I'd really look at how can we make public transit more viable across the world. In a lot of places it is already kind of the normal part of their culture, but in a lot of places it's very car-centric. Cities are built around cars, not people almost. So I'd really look at transportation as one of those key fields, and that does include, how do we make electronic vehicles more viable? But I'd really want to focus on that public transit, really good rail systems, trains, carpooling even as an option, buses, of course, walking areas, walkable cities, biking, making those things more accessible, I think would be a big chunk, or it would help eliminate a lot of the waste already on the in the world. And I believe from the last time I looked at the total waste of the world, I believe transportation was the number one kind of big industry to look at, or at least it's one of them. And then energy is also a big one as well.
I think Kingston can be a pretty good bikeable city regarding the size of how it is. Like, close maybe some roads, make it 100% just by bikes. We do have those. Like when I stayed in Bordeaux, we had Rue Sainte-Catherine, which was a bikeable alley. Like you cannot put your car inside of it. Basically, it's closed. So it's only from 7 before 7 a.m. for businesses who are on that alley. They should own a business basically to be in that alley, and then they should go before 7 a.m. So that's how it works. And then again, it's at 6 p.m. at night. Then you can bring it back, but then again, it closes. But there's a time that a car are minimally allowed into it. So that's all basically ways. And I love the street promenade for that reason. In Kingston, like they close like the main street, and you could walk basically in the street, freely without having cars trying to, will there be a car anyways? Like you can just walk freely. So those days, like I think it needs to happen more often. But like you say, I think like redesigning cities is a big challenge. How do you destroy what's already in place to reconstruct something? So there's lots to think about.
Yeah. That's really kind of a user experience problem as well. Like, how do we make things more accessible for people? It's not just about how can we, it's not just about parking and, making things easier to get around by car, but kind of, building systems around all methods of transportation as well, because it makes it a more accessible city as well.
Also talking about cars is like the reliability on cars. Like I can switch on my car at 4 a.m. I'm driving somewhere. So maybe like having more stations, really like have, for example, in Kingston, like the bus stops at 11 p.m. at night. So for me, every time I go out downtown, that's a big issue for me to like, how I need to pay for an Uber basically to get back home at 2 a.m. when I go out to pubs and every stuff like that. So
it would be great to have public transit happen more often, especially for, when you do want to go out as a student or really, I know there's a lot of students and just people that work past 10 p.m. or 12 a.m. I know my partner recently was doing work past 12 a.m. and basically relied on Uber or a taxi, or if a friend happened to have a car to get home, which is kind of like
it's a huge chunk of money.
It's a huge chunk of money,
and also wastes.
Yeah, and it's wasteful, but really making, and that's really making it part of the culture, because if more people want that service there or are taking public transit, it's going to mean it's going all night long. Look at the big cities, like I believe New York's is 24 hours. That's kind of a really dynamic public transit system. Not saying it's perfect or anything. I'm sure people from there probably have a lot of things to say, but not everything's going to be built perfectly as well. I think humans have to realize that we're not perfect. So we can't expect everything we make to be perfect. Nature is perfect. We're not perfect.
True. And I do believe like nature is perfect. And also like speaking, because I think there's a huge demand for really transit to be like 24, not 24, but at least most of the hours. Because considering the house where I stay, like one of them is a PSW worker, one of them is a security officer. So we are 4 people. One of them works at the dog shelter. So basically she needs to work at 4 a.m. So they go to work at 11 p.m. So basically, most people in Kingston are more oriented towards working at night sometimes. So nurses also sometimes who go there, they're like huge chunk of the economy of Kingston, really. So I think that could be something to be pitched of. Like, I don't know why. Do you know why? Basically, there's no transit after that time, or
I'm assuming. I don't know the direct reason or anything,
assumption.
But the assumption is that maybe there's just not the demand for it, because it does cost the city a decent amount of money to run transit at that point, because you have to pay for everything related to the bus, but also the bus driver, and we don't want to, So really there is a decent amount of expenses with kind of public transit at night. So there really has to be that need. And I think getting those overnight is also hard, because it's also, there's no traffic really. So it's a lot faster to get anywhere by car, as opposed to, you can use public transit during rush hour to kind of avoid rush hour. It's much easier sitting in rush hour if you're not the one driving or anything like that. So, those elements of, benefits of taking public transit are not as prevalent at night sometimes, but it should still be the sustainability option and also the cost-effective option for a lot of people. So I'd love to see that kind of implemented through, Kingston, but also kind of a lot of the world as well. Really dynamic, good public transit infrastructure systems.
And also, it's more like quick fire questions, which is to know more about you as a person. What is one pet peeve which people do? It can be sustainably related or in general that people do that you don't like.
That's a hard question. That might be the hardest. I guess just in general, not really sustainability question, is just when I don't know. I guess just people, disrespectful people, I guess is my biggest pet peeve. As you mentioned at the beginning, I'm usually a pretty smiley kind of guy. I like to be pretty, I don't want to just say overly positive. I'm not just, bursting with joy all the time. I know that, but trying to do, I try to be as friendly as I can to people around me. So when I don't see that kind of a pet peeve, or even just small little things like, not watching where you're going and you're just running into people and just kind of being inconsiderate of your surroundings, that can be a pet peeve of mine. I don't like watching someone just barge into someone just because they're not paying attention.
On their phone, like...
Exactly. And they're just, basically throwing shoulders at people. That can be a pet peeve. I guess when people want to really, I don't know. I don't really have a lot of pet peeves, if I'm being honest, I guess.
I have lots of them. I can do a
do you want to dive into them?
No, I don't want to dive. But this is so much. But I have a new one. Each week I have a new one, basically. So basically there's that stairs to come to VSA, to Innovation Hub. So basically when I live in Paris, we would have those escalators, So if you want to stand and wait for the escalator to bring you up, you can. And we leave one space free for people who are busy and so that they can walk quickly. And there's one thing here with that stairs that you will have a group of people walking on the same steps. And they walk slowly. They're always, because they're in a conversation, So, and I'm busy. I need to go to work, or I need to rush to a class. So I have to hey, excuse me, I need to go in. I have always 2 bags, I have a gym bag and so I'm it's already painful. So that's my new pet peeve of the week. It might be a series on the podcast. Pet peeve of Sean of the week. So that's one.
Let's bring it in. That's
my pet peeve of the week. So basically,
I also have that. Now that you've brought it up, I do also have that pet peeve. It's almost like people, one way up, one way down.
Because some people actually understand it. Hey, this is for way up, this is for way down. So everybody walks freely, like they want. So but some people are just oh my god, come on, guys. Well, anyways, what is one movie which you personally love, which people might not love, that you will force me to watch?
Oh, I'm not a huge movie watcher. I gotta be honest. I'm always TV shows. Right now it's House of the Dragon. Huge House of the Dragon fan. So that's something highly recommend watching that. You don't need to watch Game of Thrones either. So if you don't want to do 8 seasons of that, no worries. Movies, I like Star Wars. I'm a big Star Wars guy. I'm not a big movie. I can't remember the last time. I think the last time I went to the movies for for anything, I think it was actually Star Wars. So don't even have I actually am a sucker for romantic comedies. You know, those can be good ones.
Yeah.
I'm not a big movie guy, but yeah, TV shows definitely is more my thing. The new Cyberpunk show is also, or it's not a movie. I can't think it's just the new. It's called Cyberpunk Edge Runners. That's really good as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, House of the Dragon is what I'm watching right now.
And what is one guilty food which you love to have?
Guilty food.
Yeah, like it's not good for you, but I'm going to have it anyways.
I mean, as simple as it is, I'd say like I like bread a lot. You know, bread dishes. So that includes pizza, bruschetta. I have a lot of that actually.
Bruschetta?
Yeah, I love it. I eat a lot of bread, which is probably my biggest probably calorie and carb kind of big thing there is, I love just like I like making my own bread. I love I love sourdough. I love all kinds of different bread. So I'd say bread as a food item, and then using things with it is kind of my guilty pleasure.
And so you make your own bread? Yeah.
I have, yes, yeah.
That's any particular bread which you love to make?
I try my best. I'm not very good at it yet. I'm not an avid bread maker, but I have made a focaccia, but regular, just kind of general, basic white bread. I'm just trying to dip my hands in. I'm trying to be more of a
baker.
Baker. Seems like it's a lot of fun. I like it. It's time consuming though, and I'm messy enough as a person in the kitchen. When I cook, I try to clean as I go, but I'm kind of all over the place. A little, I spill some things here and there, so like it takes a lot of the kitchen space up when I do that.
Definitely, like when you work with flour, it's bound to.
Oh yeah, it's all over my shirt. It's on the ground. It's so much of a cleanup after that.
One tip, if I can give you, working back in hospitality, we have this process of marche en avant, which is in English like a walk forward. So basically, everything which needs to be prepared at stage one, that is cutting or like taming the flour. So everything which needs raw preparation, you do that, and then you move afterwards. It can be meat, so then you go straight into that line of command, so that you don't waste time, you don't waste space as well. So it will always go like this in that flow, so that you never get back to. That's basically what I do. Also, in terms of cooking, I try to cook. If I need to cook two things at the same time, they go at the same time. And between the cooking, I try to wash. So that's basically how I save time and every stuff like that when I cook.
I worked at McDonald's for a few years, and so like clean as you go is like one of the biggest things there. So it's almost like ingrained in my head of like, oh, I should do this while I'm waiting for that to cook, and so I'm rushing, and then I'm like, oh no, that's burnt. So no, like because I've been cleaning over here, and then so it can get kind of hectic at times, and then I end up creating more mess because I'm rushing all the way.
Wow, Jason, that has been an amazing, resourceful podcast in terms of myself, learning how to be more sustainable about new projects. Halloween Harvest, I'm looking forward to it. It's gonna be good. It's gonna be hype. And looking forward to that costume as well, which you're going to wear. And so we can reach SLC Footprint on Instagram. We will have the email of Jadon right there. And also, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you love this episode. It's SA Voice Podcast on Instagram, a Voice Podcast on YouTube. And thank you again for watching the episode. And it's always every Tuesday, 2 p.m. And tune in next week for a new episode of the SA Voice Podcast for more unique information about SLC or unique students as well. And if you want to be a guest, drop us a message on Instagram. Simple as that. And we'll send you an email. And have again an amazing week at SLC. See you soon next week. Tune in. Bye-bye.